Audible's best of 2024 picks are here. Discover the year's top audiobooks, podcasts, and originals in all your favorite genres. From memoirs and sci-fi to mysteries and thrillers, Audible's curated list in every category is the best way to hear 2024's best in audio entertainment. Like a stunning new full-cast production of George Orwell's 1984. Heartfelt memoirs like Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's Lovely One, the year's best fiction like The Women by Kristen Hanna, and Percival Everett's brilliantly subversive James. Another worthwhile listen is Amy Tintera's thrilling and twisting whodunit, Listen for the Lie. This laugh-out-loud funny tale follows Lucy, a woman who needs to clear her own name after a true crime podcast decides to probe into the worst night of her life, one she conveniently can't remember. Audible. There's more to imagine when you listen. Go to audible.com/WonderyPod and discover all the year's best waiting for you.
What if you could learn from the world's best all in one place? You can with Masterclass. With Masterclass, you can learn from the best to become your best. Masterclass is the only streaming platform where you can learn and grow with over 200 plus of the world's best. And you can access Masterclass on your phone, computer, smart TV, or even in audio mode. Confidently navigate the media with influential intellectual Noam Chomsky. Use science to solve your problems with Bill Nye, or learn from the past with Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Doris Kearns Goodwin. And the classes really do make a difference. 88% of members feel that Masterclass has made a positive impact on their lives. Plus, every new membership comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Don't wait another moment to start your learning journey with Masterclass. Masterclass always has great offers during the holidays, sometimes up to as much as 50% off. Head over to masterclass.com/Wondery for the current offer. That's up to 50% off at masterclass.com/Wondery.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. I hope that you've been enjoying your holiday week, and I've got another great episode for you. This one is the focus of a People Magazine Investigates documentary, and I know you're going to find it just as fascinating as I did. William Bradford Bishop was born in Pasadena, California. He graduated from South Pasadena High School a year ahead of his cheerleader girlfriend, Annette. The former high school football player received an American Studies degree from Yale University and graduate degrees in Italian from Middlebury College in Vermont and African Studies at UCLA. He married Annette in 1959. That same year, he enlisted in the U.S. Army and spent 4 years in the U.S. military intelligence overseas. He became fluent in Italian, Spanish, Serbo-Croatian, and French. After his military service was over, he got a job in the State Department in the Foreign Service in Italy, Ethiopia, and Botswana. During this time, he had 3 sons, William, Brenton, and Jeffrey, who was born in 1971. He eventually returned to the U.S. in 1974 and became an assistant chief in the Division of Special Activities and Commercial Treaties. William Bradford Bishop and his wife and 3 sons, along with his mother and a golden retriever named Leo, moved to the quaint D.C. suburb of Bethesda. In their spare time, the couple played tennis and went swimming at the local country club. They enjoyed skiing in the winter, and William Bradford even bought himself a motorcycle. Annette, a kind and generous stay-at-home mom, took art classes at the local college. Even though their life seemed perfect on paper, there seemed to be something unraveling. William Bradford and Annette were rumored to be struggling financially. Furthermore, he was described as a lone wolf and under psychiatric care in the past, and had used medication for depression, became despondent when he was passed up for a promotion for an overseas post. According to authorities, on March 1st, 1976, he left early from work, claiming he wasn't feeling well. On his way home, he stopped at a bank and withdrew $400 before purchasing a gasoline can and a sledgehammer. Once home, he killed his family and then drove their bodies to Columbia, North Carolina, where he disposed of the bodies of his wife, his mother, and 3 sons, ages 14, 10, and 4, in a hole that he dug up and set them on fire. A coroner later determined they died from blunt force trauma. William Bradford, an avid outdoorsman and licensed amateur pilot, was linked to the crimes via his fingerprints found on the gasoline can at the fire scene, as well in the blood at the family's home. His maroon-colored station wagon was later found in the parking lot of the Elkmont Campground in Great Smoky Mountains National Park near Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Inside the vehicle, authorities discovered 2 blood-stained tarps, a blood-stained blanket, an axe, a shotgun, and a suitcase containing men's clothing, toiletries, as well as cigarette butts in the ashtray. William Bradford Bishop has been on the run ever since. It's now close to 50 years later, and the FBI is still looking for him. Now, there have been many claimed sightings of William Bradford Bishop in Europe since 1976. The United States Marshal Service considers the following 3 sightings to be the most credible. The first was in Stockholm, Sweden in July of 1978. A Swedish woman reported seeing him twice in a public park within a week. She was certain the man was him, but didn't contact the police because she didn't know he was wanted for murder in the United States. Sorrento, Italy, January 1979. Roy Harrell, a State Department colleague who had last seen him before the murders, reported seeing a bearded man in a restroom who spoke with an American accent and fled when Harrell asked if he was Bishop. And then in Basel, Switzerland, September 19, 1994, a neighbor who knew Bishop and his family reported seeing him a few feet away on a train platform. She described him as well-groomed and said he was getting into a car. Now, he has been described by the FBI as a longtime insomniac who may have kept a diary or journal. He drank scotch and wine and enjoyed peanuts and spicy food and was intense and self-absorbed, prone to violent outbursts, and preferred a neat and orderly environment. Now, at the same time, in March of 1976, 18-year-old Kathy Gillcrist had just been crowned Miss Stoughton in the small Massachusetts town where she grew up. As she said at the time, "I was dressed in red, white, and blue polyester. I could not have done anything more wholesome than that." Well, little did she know that 8 hours away at the same time, a horrific mass murder was taking place inside a Bethesda, Maryland home, a crime that she would eventually have a connection to decades later. As she got closer to retirement, she started wondering more about where she had come from. She had been adopted into a very loving family. So she figured she would take a DNA test to find out some information. And when she received the results, she was shocked. She used 23andMe, hoping to make connections with blood relatives, and the first woman she had a match with turned out to be quite the find. So, My Father Was a Mass Murderer airs on ID Discovery this week. So retired drama teacher Kathy Gillcrist embarked on a journey to find her biological parents. And then her worst fears came into fruition when she discovered that police wanted her father, her biological father, for a mass murder in Maryland State. So in this episode, I interview People magazine editor-in-charge, Wendy Naugle, about this most fascinating case. Here's my interview with Wendy. Here's something I'm really looking forward to as the weather turns cooler. Football games. Jack's in the tackle football playoffs this weekend, and Mia's dancing at her school's football games, which, by the way, are #1 in the nation. I need to be warm. I need to be chic, so I slip into a cozy sweater from Quince. Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. I just said $50. $50. Quince lets you treat your loved ones and yourself to everyday luxury at an affordable price. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. So that includes beautiful leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim, and so much more. How are they able to do that? Well, by partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, which passes the savings on to you and to me. Quince is on the nice list. So get yourself a Mongolian cashmere sweater in oatmeal or black, my fave. Gift luxury this holiday season without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/Kate Casey for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Kate Casey to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Kate Casey.
You sign up for something, forget about it after the trial period ends, then you're charged month after month after month. The subscriptions are there, but you're not using them. In fact, 85% of people have at least one paid subscription going unused each month. Thanks to Rocket Money, you can see all your subscriptions in one place and cancel the ones you're not using anymore. Now, boom, you're saving more money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/Wondery today. That's rocketmoney.com/Wondery. rocketmoney.com/Wondery.
Wendy, this is such a fascinating story. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It is such an intriguing story.
How did this story come to you guys?
You know, we have reporters in the field all the time, and we have been doing so many episodes of People Magazine Investigates. You know, we've got 8 seasons under our belt, and so sometimes people approach us as well. And when I heard about this story, I just felt like we had to cover it because it taps into something that I think we have all wondered of, what if I did that DNA test? What would I learn? And in this case, Kathy Gillcrist, she learned a lot.
Yeah. Well, I do think it has 3 elements. It has the 23andMe element, which is continuously fascinating. Then you have a family annihilation case. And certainly we've had several of them in the recent years that have captured our interest. And then also you have the unsolved mysteries part of it too. So how do you begin to tell this story when you have 3 kind of pieces that you're kind of weaving together?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we always do at People is tell the human story. It's that story that everyone relates to. It's extraordinary people doing ordinary things and ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And Kathy's case was really all of that combined. You know, it's a very ordinary thing to think, you know, I'm going to go and get my DNA tested with 23andMe. Of course, she had a very special reason. She did not have a relationship with her parents because she had been adopted. She came from a very loving family, always felt like she belonged and was well loved by her parents. But she had this trait of being very, outgoing, and her parents were very reserved. And so when she got older and had a little time, she thought, well, maybe this is related to my genetics, and started to go down this path. And so that's really how the story starts, is we started to go down that path with her. And then what she uncovered was just so unbelievable that it's, as you said, it's a story within a story. She started to learn about her family and realize that she came from a family that horrible things had happened. And it's a cold case that's still, I guess you wouldn't call it a cold case because they know who did it, but the perpetrator is still at large. So it does have all of those really intriguing elements that you mentioned.
Was the piece of the parental puzzle, was that the first that she figured out? Has she figured out anything on her mother's side?
She first, with the help of her cousin, started, putting together this family tree. And unfortunately, her biological mother was quite ill. And her half siblings had said, please, we just don't think she can handle this. Can you please just give her some space? And of course, she had to respect that and also honor her, half siblings who were protective of their mother. And that's a really beautiful thing. So with her cousin's help, she started to piece together the rest of the family tree. And that's where she started to uncover some of these other details. And I don't even know how you would react to learning this about your family. It's pretty mind-blowing.
So there were no puzzle pieces that she can tell of at this date on the relationship between her birth parents.
Correct.
Okay.
She's still there. There's no clarity of if her father knew about her or not, and what their relationship might have been, as far as we know anyway.
And as far as we know, there are no additional half siblings out in the world either.
As far as we know, right. That's correct.
As you guys started to tell the story, I was really taken by his family, the ones that died. Can you tell me a little bit more about his wife, his mother, and the 3 boys?
Yeah. And so this is an amazing, that's something we always try to do at People is really focus on those who were victims in these crimes. We don't want their stories to be forgotten. And it's a pretty compelling case when you get through all of the details. So William Bradford Bishop, he's living with his mom, Lobelia, and then his wife, Annette, and then they have three boys. And the boys, William Bradford Bishop III, Brenton, and Jeffrey were their three boys. And so, they are this beautiful family. And William Bradford Bishop has this incredible experience. Basically, he would call it his big spy job. He was stationed in Europe and had these incredible postings. They had this beautiful golden retriever named Leo. It kind of was this amazing family that had this otherworldly experience before they settled where they lived. And so it is a fascinating family of how they came together and followed him through his jobs and ended up, living what seemed like this idyllic life next door with this worldly experience behind them.
So it was really interesting to hear from old classmates. So you're picturing yourself in Bethesda, and there are a lot of prominent people that live in the DC area. But you have this family, and the boys are all gorgeous. And the oldest one in particular shows up in school with like an African kind of garb on and begins to share with everybody these otherworldly experiences, learning about different cultures. So he probably stood out as a student, not only because he was so gorgeous, but had such a different and interesting life. And one can only assume that he would have gone on to do some incredible things, having that kind of life experience. The mother is beautiful. She sounds to be like a beautiful caretaker, a gracious woman. They have his mother living with them. And then, of course, there's Jeffrey, the little one as well. It's unthinkable that this sleepy street in Bethesda has this family living there. And on one evening, he goes home after going to Sears, getting a hammer and a gas can, goes into the home, and no one sees anybody else ever leave that home. And then what happens after that?
Well, it's this, the way that this even comes to life is really there is this massive fire that authorities see. And it's at a time where there was a lot of dry, the climate was very dry and there was a lot of concern about fires getting out of control. So at first they rushed to the scene thinking they have to put this blaze out so, nothing else catches fire. And as they start to look at the scene, what they discover is something more gruesome, right? At first they discover two different bodies. And when the investigator on the scene, he actually uses a big tree stump to try to move the bodies. What he discovers is something far more gruesome, that underneath the bodies of these two women, there are three boys. And it's a horrific sight. As one of the investigators says in the show, this is a once in a lifetime thing that you would see ever in your career, if that happens at all. And so obviously it creates quite a commotion throughout the department. They go to the scene of the crime, and there are several details that they find there. One is a shovel, which has a label on it that names a nearby hardware store. And another is a gas can that still has a print on it. And it's pretty miraculous that those two things survived a blaze like this, given the size of the blaze. But because of those things, they were able to start to piece together kind of a triangle of area where they might be able to identify this family and who, were the victims of this really horrible crime. Another detail, which I found really fascinating, was that the clothing labels on the women's clothes at that time period, they would still stitch in what store they came from. So they could identify the exact department store that it came from. And then once they had the department store and the hardware store, they were able to establish a radius of where this might have occurred, where this family might have lived.
Hey, Prime members! Have you heard? You can listen to your favorite podcasts ad-free? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free-podcasts. That's amazon.com/ad-free-podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Ladies, is everyone trying to fix their health concerns with unproven gummies and tricks? Well, thank goodness, Low Libido has a real clinically proven treatment. Low libido can be so frustrating, but there is a treatment called Addyi, ADDYI. Addyi is the first and only FDA-approved pill proven to boost sexual desire in certain premenopausal women. Isn't that great? A clinically proven option for your low libido that comes from a doctor, not a gas station. Learn more at Addyi.com and take charge of your sexual health with a treatment that's backed by science. Remember, that's Addyi, ADDYI.com.
Addyi, or flibanserin, is for premenopausal women with acquired generalized hypoactive sexual desire disorder, HSDD, who have not had problems with low sexual desire in the past, who have low sexual desire no matter the type of sexual activity, the situation, or the sexual partner. The low sexual desire is troubling to them and is not due to a medical or mental health problem, problems in the relationship, or medicine or other drug use. Addyi is not for use in men or to enhance sexual performance. Your risk of severe low blood pressure and fainting is increased if you drink 1 to 2 standard alcoholic drinks close in time to your Addyi dose. Wait at least 2 hours after drinking before taking Addyi at bedtime. Your risk of severe low blood pressure and fainting is also increased if you take certain prescriptions, over-the-counter or herbal medications, or have liver problems. Low blood pressure and fainting can happen when you take Addyi, even if you don't drink alcohol or take other medicines. Do not take if you are allergic to any of the ingredients in Addyi. Allergic reactions may include hives, itching, or trouble breathing. Sleepiness, sometimes serious, can occur. Common side effects include dizziness, nausea, tiredness, difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, and dry mouth. See full PI and medication guide, including boxed warning, at Addyi.com/PI or call 844-PINK-PILL. Addyi.
That's Addyi, ADDYI.com.
Now, in the meantime, there is a home that has evidence that it's just sitting there. So what's the first tip-off that the family's missing?
So obviously, a case like this gets lots of news and attention. And eventually, a neighbor calls because they realize they haven't seen anyone going out or coming in or collecting their mail. You know, their 1973 Volkswagen is still sitting in the driveway. And so they call and they say, you know, we haven't seen this family in a while. And that's the first tip for authorities to go and visit the house.
So it's pretty incredible how they were able to deduce that this was the family, but they can't find the father. But they do locate the car. And what is in the car?
So in the car, what they discover is as they canvassed the area, there were people who had seen this burgundy car at the crime scene. And so when they uncover that car, they do find some things inside. They find a bloodstained tarp, a bloodstained blanket, and some other details that they can then connect to the crime scene.
And what's interesting is that William Bradford has just disappeared. No one has seen him since. Now, there have been several sightings. There have been excavations of different, those that have passed to see if the identity matches. But thus far, he remains at large. Tell me a little bit about the sightings abroad. What investigators really theorize is because he had this training, as a big guy spy, as he liked to say, that he was able to disappear into Europe. And they believe there are a couple of sightings. There are 2 sightings within weeks of each other. But really, then years go by and years become decades and the case goes cold. And so there still is the possibility that he is alive in his 80s, perhaps living his best life in Europe, as much as I hate to say that, of someone who could commit this horrendous crime. But I think that, that's why we felt it was important to really come back to Kathy and her story and the story of this family. As she started to learn about everything, it no longer became a story for her. This was something that was real. She went to the house. She saw where her half siblings lived. She met with one of
the boys' close friends and realized what a touching friendship they had and how the school had placed a plaque in his memory under the base of a tree. The plaque is now on the side of the school, in part because the tree has grown so much. It's this beautiful tree that now towers over the school building. And so that's when it really becomes real of what kind of life the boys might have lived and Annette and Lobelia might have had, because all reports from friends and neighbors were that they were wonderful people who were a joy to be around and were giving to their community. And their stories were really lost because of what he did.
The other part I kept thinking was with a profile like him, he sees himself as a James Bond. I wonder if someone like himself would be checking news reports. So the fact that he has this biological daughter who looks remarkably like him and is fascinated by his story and the story of his relatives, I wonder if there's a possibility that if he is still alive, he's cognizant that people are talking about him.
I imagine that if he was able to escape, really unnoticed, that he knows what he's doing, that he is checking news reports, keeping tabs on what findings might have come to light. But I also hope that keeping the story alive might mean that he is spotted someday and there are some more answers in this case. Because I think Annette and the boys and Lobelia really deserve that.
I do too. Well, this is such a great, great project that you guys did. Tell me a little bit more about the other People Investigates projects that you're working on.
So we have a great series that's coming up, and there are so many stories. One that was really touching to me was the case of the Indiana slasher, as he became known. And it was the story of two sisters and a friend who, got to go out for the first time as teenagers. And one of them convinced the others to kind of skip out to a party. And they hitchhiked to get a ride to the party. And unfortunately, they were picked up by, a wannabe murderer who attacked them and nearly killed them and nearly left them for dead. And somehow they crawled to the side of the road and got help. He still had one of them, and they got officials to get there in time and save her. But again, it was a cold case that went on for decades because they could not find him. Every lead they had went cold, but they finally uncovered the identity of who it was. He had been convicted of robbery, so he was known to be a burglar, so to speak. But at least they were able to say, he did much more than that. And so they finally at least got answers and justice. And the way that they have come together as friends and protected each other through this, decade ordeal of finding justice is really incredible.
Where can people find you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Wendy Naugle.
And where can people watch all the episodes?
So we are now available on Max and Investigation Discovery.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my wonderful guest, Wendy, and remind you to click subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and make sure that you check out my What to Watch list by going to katecasey.substack.com to get a list of what to watch each week in unscripted TV. You can also get bonus episodes by going to my Patreon at patreon.com/KateCasey. And please follow me on social media so you know about all my upcoming guests. You can go to Instagram. I'm at KatecaseyCA. TikTok, it's Kate Casey. And Kate Casey on Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky. Check back tomorrow for an all-new episode.
In a quiet suburb, a community is shattered by the death of a beloved wife and mother. But this tragic loss of life quickly turns into something even darker. Her husband had tried to hire a hitman on the dark web to kill her. And she wasn't the only target. Because buried in the depths of the internet is the kill list, a cache of chilling documents containing names, photos, addresses, and specific instructions for people's murders. This podcast is the true story of how I ended up in a race against time to warn those whose lives were in danger. And it turns out convincing a total stranger someone wants them dead is not easy. Follow Kill List on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Kill List and more Exhibit C true crime shows like Morbid early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus. Check out Exhibit C in the Wondery app for all your true crime listening.